Free agency officially begins today. The offseason is underway. The Juan Soto, Scott Boras winter drama has begun. We are going to be watching not just the Phillies, but all of Major League Baseball very closely all offseason long here on the Cherry Pinstripes podcast. We are back. The postseason is over. I'd say GG's to the Dodgers, but such a disappointing end of the postseason for us, man. Such a disappointing end of the postseason. So, yeah, free agency starts today. The Phillies did end the season. 4 years in a row, they've improved their regular season record. They finished with a 96-67 record. They win the NL East for the first time in more than a decade. And this is 4 years in a row where their win total has gone up. 82, 87, 90, 95. On the flip side of that, losing the World Series, losing the NLCS, losing the NLDS. So I can see why it feels like the sky is falling, but I also can see and understand Dave Dombrowski's confidence in this team currently, in this coaching staff, because over the last 4 years, they have progressively gotten better over the 162-game season. This roster going into next year, I don't think it's going to be as copy-paste as Dave Dombrowski made it seem in that outro interview after the postseason series. Before we get into that, though, Gold Glove Awards went out yesterday. We had Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, and Zach Wheeler all up for Gold Gloves. None of them got them. And if I'm being brutally honest, the only one that kind of shocked me a little was Zach Wheeler, because Bryce Terang was unbelievable at second base this year. He had Stotty and outs above average, DRS. It's 2 years in a row where Bryson Stott was very clearly the second guy. I did think Bryce Harper had a little bit of a shot, too. Christian Walker only has him in, I believe, 2 defensive runs saved, and Bryce Harper led the league in diving plays. Sometimes the Gold Glove Award can be a little bit of a popularity contest, so I thought he had a chance there. They did give it to Christian Walker, and something I've learned about the Rawlings Gold Glove Award over the years, if someone has a streak going, it's very much like boxing. You can't be close. You have to dominate. If you want to be the champ, you have to dominate the champ. You don't win split decisions against the champ. You got to dominate the champ. And I think that's a little bit of what went on there. We saw, I believe, 2 years ago, Brian Hayes kind of got robbed of that award so that Nolan Arenado could get his 10th in a row. Whatever. Brian Hayes now has his own streak going. But that's the Gold Glove Award. We got Silver Slugger Awards coming around soon. JT Realmuto, Alec Boehm, I believe Bryce Harper are all nominated for that. So we could see some more Phillies awards, but I know a lot of you guys don't care about that. We lost, bounced in the first round. None of the participation trophies matter to most of this fan base. So let's talk about 2025. The key to this team is the rotation. We're going to make some changes, I believe, to the middle and the back end of this lineup. I think we're going to see some name shifts. We'll talk about some potential trades and free agent targets later. But the rotation, we still have 2 dogs at the top. You have a bona fide Cy Young caliber starter at the top who's making a ton of money, and he pitches to that money. You have another guy locked in who's going to give you 200 innings for the next couple of years. Hopefully, Ranger Suarez is healthy going into next season, because I'm very excited about that. Ranger Suarez is entering a contract year. It's the final year of arbitration. Every pitch he throws can make him more money. So a healthy, happy Ranger Suarez will be a game changer in 2025. But the key to this team right now, man, the 4th starter, Christopher Sanchez. This team has an opportunity right now. This guy's on pre-arb. He's got 4 years left and then 2 club options. Christopher Sanchez is going to be a Philly for the next 6 years, and he is not on the books for more than $9 million until year 5. That is huge if he continues to pitch the way that he's pitched, and it can make up for the worst contract in baseball, Taijuan Walker, who I think there's a good chance that the Phillies DFA him and eat that contract. Because at this point in the timeline, it's gotten to a point where Taijuan Walker's getting paid to be a good teammate. He's just standing at the top of the steps, and they made a big deal about that in the playoffs. They talk about how good of a teammate he is, how good of a person he is. He has a spot at the top of the steps in the dugout that he doesn't move from. By all accounts, he seems to be a good guy, but $18 million a year for someone that doesn't even make your postseason roster. Sometimes you can make addition by subtraction, and this is one of those situations. We have a strong 4. You can find a 5. I'm open to Kyle Gibson coming back. Shout out Kyle Gibson. I would love to see us DFA Taijuan Walker and bring Gibby in here as the 5th starter. See what you got in Andrew Painter in spring training and early in the minor leagues, who I think will fly through the minor leagues, by the way. Looks unreal in the Arizona Fall League right now, coming back from that Tommy John surgery. ERA under 2, throwing 100, striking people out. There's a lot of swing and miss out there right now for Andrew Painter. Keep your eyes on him in the offseason. And then the bullpen, which is what imploded on us in the offseason, or in the postseason, going into the offseason. The good news about the bullpen is there are a couple guys there already that are locked in. I know there's a chance we lose Jeff Hoffman. There's a chance you lose Carlos Estevez. I do think they'll bring one of those two guys back unless we see a Devin Williams-ish trade. Maybe even throw some money at Tanner Scott. We'll see. But as of right now, going into the season, you have two lefties locked in. Tanner Banks, even though he's 32 years old, is on pre-arbitration money. So there's a fifth, sixth inning lefty that you can use. Matt Strom's on the books for just $7.5 million, and he has a club option in 26 for $4.5 million. So there's a good all-star caliber lefty that's on your books for half as much as he should get paid over the next 2 years. Orion Kerkering is just now entering pre-arbitration, so you have him for a half decade. And the biggest thing here, and I've been saying this for what feels like 2 years now, the window of a championship for this team, I know a lot of people, this is an opinionated topic. The window for this team, I'm not saying this isn't my opinion. This is Dave Dombrowski. I'm telling you, this is the Phillies. The championship window is Bryce Harper's career. There is no, we're going to punt the last 5 years of his career. No. Until Bryce Harper stops playing baseball at a even average level, they will be throwing money all over the place. They've already added 3 new investors for next season because they know exactly what they got there. They got their hands full right now. This free agency and the teams that are looking to improve their rosters, the Phillies have their hands full in upgrading this roster. And they got investors coming in, and John Middleton wants that trophy, dude. There's no, we tried. Let's go into a rebuild. It's not going to happen. He's going to spend money. Before we move further, this podcast today is brought to you by Blitz Ball Battle 5.
Blitz Ball Battle 5. Game 1, it is a true classic. Team baggage, we got ice. We haven't seen this since the first ever game of Blitz Ball Battle 1.
This game is going to be one for the ages. I've said it. These two teams have got something to prove. We got ice. They've been the favourites for a lot of years, and they haven't been able to pull anything out. And look, we've got the company. This is the company we're talking about.
Peter, you're so right. Both of these teams do have something to prove. When you think of these tournaments, you think of these two squads. The fact that they both have 0 points is ridiculous, honestly. It's horrible. Talking to Jake before the game, I said, you got anything for me? And he just said, baggage is back.
What are they back from?
Well, a lot of things.
A lot of losses?
All right.
A lot of things.
What do you have?
I've got to go. We got ice. They're going to get off on a beautiful start today. Zoe has been the most improved in this warehouse over the last few years. We'll see what they've got.
I think I'm going to go with We Got Ice. We will see you later today. Blitzball Battle 5, Game 1.
So make sure you go check out Blitzball Battle 5. If you're not already subscribed to Warehouse Games on YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. If you want to see me or any of the other people from John Boy Media act like average Joes playing backyard sports, sometimes with professional athletes, might I add, Warehouse Games on YouTube. It's a ton of fun. You will not regret it. Go check it out. Now, like I said about the championship window with this team, let's talk about this 2025 payroll. Because again, the Phillies do have, in my opinion, the worst contract in baseball with Taijuan Walker, but they're actually set up great. This team is set up great. There's only one human being on this roster who makes more than $27 million. And this is a league where good players are getting 28, 30, 33, 35 routinely. Bryce Harper makes 27. Trey Turner makes 27. Aaron Nola makes 24. Until these guys start playing bad, I have no issues with this entire payroll. None of it. Some of these contracts have big numbers, but they're going to fall off. When Zach Wheeler's contract ends in 2 years, that's just $42 million more that John Middleton has to play with. When Kyle Schwarber's contract ends next year, that's $20 million he has to play with. We're not just losing these guys. This is not a franchise that's going to say, oh man, I don't know how we're going to replace him. They're going to go buy someone else if someone within the organization doesn't step up. And that's, in my opinion, why they were so patient at the deadline last year. There was no perfect piece to the puzzle. On paper, yes, Luis Robert sounds great. Sounds great. Right-handed, talent through the roof, goes on these streaks where he's the hottest player in the league. But the reality is he plays every other game. He's hurt all the time. And he was awful in the second half of 2024. I do think there will be bigger fish and better fits this winter and at next year's deadline. And I'm happy that they didn't oversell themselves because I get it. You could have upgraded this roster at the deadline, probably could have gone out and got someone a little bit better than Austin Hayes, a little bit better than Carlos Estevez. But in my opinion, doomsday for this team is when they no longer have assets that they can move. They no longer have assets that they can look forward to in the future. I want to be the Houston Astros. I don't want to be the 2008, 2009, 2010 Phillies that as soon as one guy got hurt, bam, there's no one else coming. I don't want to be that team. We don't have to go into a 10-year rebuild. That seems to be a common thought. You don't have to rebuild. The Astros won a championship, and they refused to trade Kyle Tucker. There were several years there where Kyle Tucker was a top 25 prospect for a championship caliber team, and they held on to him. Why? Because they knew George Springer was probably going to walk at some point. They knew that some of their big dogs were coming up around the corner. They moved some accessory pieces. They could have moved big fish, and they didn't. Now, they're on 10 years of playing good. Springer leaves, Tucker in. The Yankees don't rebuild. The Dodgers don't rebuild. If you want to be that team that's constantly looking to retool and always in the mix, you have to have assets in your system at all times. Going full send, trading. If we would have sent Andrew Painter to Chicago last year for Luis Robert and then losing the playoffs, that is doomsday. Not this. I know this feels awful right now. We thought it was our year for 3 months. This is not doomsday. This team is primed, actually. All of the guys on this roster that you can point to and say probably need a little bit more. Alec Bohm, Brandon Marsh, a couple of the relievers. They're not making big money. They're replaceable. They can go. You can replace Alec Bohm. You can replace Brandon Marsh. The one guy from the daycare who I think actually fits this team is Bryson Stott. I know he had a down year, but in terms of position and play type, he actually fits the mold. I'm okay with a good hitter that goes through stretches. He doesn't provide a ton of power. He's playing Gold Glove caliber defense at second base. He's a good at bat when he's on. I'm perfectly fine with him 7, 8, 9. Some of these other guys you can replace probably, and like I said at the top, I do think there will be more roster changes than we think. Obviously Dave Dombrowski's not going to come out and be like, yeah, we're trading Alec Bohm. But I do think he's going to look at that market a little bit. He's going to see what Alec Bregman could potentially, what that number might look like. They might look around the league for some potential trades. You could look at, Eugenio Suarez, I believe, has an option with Arizona. You could maybe talk to them, see what's going on. There are things you can do, especially with an Aiden Miller in the back pocket, that you don't have. They're not committed, I guess is the best way to put this. They're not committed in any of the areas where they need to improve. All of the guys they're committed to are good now and going to be good for a couple more years. The sky is not falling. It's just extremely depressing the way that we're going out. It's really all it comes down to. It has been extremely, extremely depressing the way that it has ended, but we are primed, and the Phillies will continue to compete until Bryce Harper starts to decline. I really would love to see this organization get into the international market a little bit better. They have a great presence down in Venezuela. They've always found a way to bring Venezuelan guys in. Bobby Abreu, Odubel Herrera, even like Jose Alvarado. I'm blanking on one right now, an obvious one. But we always have good Venezuelan players. That's one place where we do scout well. But we need to start scouting better in the Dominican. We need to start getting more Cubans. I know it's a little bit of a joke on socials, but the Phillies are a little too Caucasian sometimes. They are. It's the truth. You need a more international, especially with the Dominican Republic presence. And we've seen guys like Starling Caba kind of break out last season. They do have some guys coming up the farm system, but the Phillies very, very, very rarely have a ranked Dominican prospect. It's not that. You want to know why teams like the Dodgers are constantly making trades at the deadline, constantly making those small little additions to their bullpen or the back end of the rotation or utility guy? It's because they are dominant in the international signing scene. They can trade a guy like Yordan Alvarez and not think twice. Yeah, by the way, Yordan Alvarez was a Dodger, got traded. They do it all the time. And it's because they know that those kids want to play for the Dodgers. There's more coming. They're just going to keep signing them and keep signing them, keep signing them. It's an endless pool for them. We need to put our feet in that pool. And we have to dive in that pool. That's where you get, and I will say, a lot of it is media pushed. Now, when the Dodgers sign an 18-year-old kid, it gets a lot more attention than any other team. They get a little bit more hype and flair. I get that. But that's on our media. We should be doing the same thing. Starling Caba should be getting talked about like he's one of the best infield prospects in baseball. Phillies media sometimes is the opposite. They kind of are a little pessimistic. They put caps and limits on people. And is he really that good? The Phillies have a terrible history of developing guys. We need to start promoting our guys. We need to get our feet in the international pool deeper so that we can have more assets at the deadline every year, more assets at winter meetings every year. And I think we are trending in that direction, especially since Bryce Harper's on this team. You've already seen the culture change. Yoshida in Boston, if the Phillies needed an outfielder when he was a free agent, he would be on this team. Diehard Bryce. His dog's name is Harper. We have a guy in our clubhouse right now that makes people want to come here. I was told Bryce Harper was a cancer in Washington. Yet here comes Trey Turner. I've never heard a bad word said about Bryce Harper by an actual athlete, not named Jonathan Papelbon. That's it. We have a guy that is attractive to the masses. We have a guy that people want to play for. We have assets in the farm system. 4 years in a row, the record in the regular season has gone up. They won the NL East. The Braves are going to bounce back next year. The Mets are going to spend a ton of money. But the Phillies are going to be in the mix. And they have pieces all over the place. And they're going to be right back there next year. It feels like the sky's falling. It is not. So moving into the offseason, as signings start to happen and maybe we get some Phillies news, I'm going to hop back in here from time to time. We're going to get probably a weekly pod out if we can, discussing moves and stuff that happen. I know sometimes baseball offseason can move extremely slow, but last season, Scott Boras kind of had a down year. Seen a lot of Scott Boras clients leak into spring training and then have awful first half of the seasons, and that was talked about all across the league. I would not be shocked if this offseason moves a little bit faster. Scott Boras can't necessarily take the same approach. He took heat from all angles last year, so that we could see a more eventful offseason this year. Free agency started tonight, and going into the offseason, I'm putting Alec Bohm in timeout. I am putting Alec Bohm in timeout. I'm sorry. I know he's up for a Silver Slugger right now. He was an all-star. He did great in the Home Run Derby in the first half of the season. It looked like, yes, he's finally breaking out. And then in the second half, he went right back to the Alec Bohm that we've seen before. And the postseason at-bats, pop. It just seemed like it was the exact same fastball up and in every single at-bat that he popped up. Everyone, I need a dog over there. And if he does happen to be on the hot corner at the start of the 2025 season, this is it. This is the make or break Alec Bohm year. It's up. I think there's a chance he's not in red pinstripes next year. But if he is, he, just like Ranger Suarez, will be playing for money every single day. And the job security might not be what it was this season or the year before. The Scott Boras revenge tour is on. I think this offseason is going to move really fast. You should go check out Blitz Ball Battle 5 of the JM Warehouse Games channel if you haven't already. I'll be discussing the Phils and the MLB offseason here on the Cherry Pinstripes podcast weekly, as often as I can. Subscribe down below. Go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you can find us. We're talking Phils, talking shop. See you guys in the next one.